Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So here we are hauling more books today, and so this is kind of like my Yule haul part 2 because this is all of the audiobooks that I downloaded during Audible's Boxing Day sale. So Audible had quite a big sale where a lot of the titles were say between $3 and $7. So I downloaded a whole bunch of audiobooks, and yeah, so let's go through these. They're not all horror or thriller specific. There's a little bit of everything in here, and so really excited to have more audiobooks to add to my library. They're great. I just find them great just to throw on when I'm cleaning the house or whatever, and just having something to listen to. So what I've really been loving about audiobooks and what I'm discovering about myself is that I've really been enjoying listening to true crime audiobooks. I listened to Helter Skelter back in October or November and really enjoyed it. So this book is called The Canon Barbie Killers by Peter Wronski, and this centers around Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka, and they are two of the most well-known and prolific serial killers in all of Canadian history. So I know this case very well, but I haven't actually sat down and read a book on it. And I heard about this book specifically from Jason White over at Jason's Weird Reads. He and I were a part of a collaboration video that was done by Played by Visions, and this was the book that Jason picked out. So when I saw that they had it on Audible, I just had to download it. I thought it was fantastic. So I'm currently listening to this right now and really enjoying it. So these two killers were quite disgusting. So they were into kidnapping and assaulting young women and killing them, and they also recorded their crimes on videotape as well. So disgusting people, but I'm really hoping that this goes into quite into depth into their crimes and all of that, because I find with this case specifically, they focus on specific aspects of the crime and it doesn't really show the full thing from beginning to end. So really hoping that this one is going to do that. So I only just started it yesterday, so not very far into it, just a couple of chapters, and I'll let you guys know in my January wrap up how that one goes. So sticking with the nonfiction, I also have two books that are kind of rock and roll biographies. So the first one is the Beastie Boys book by Mike D and Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys. And this particular band was really formative and made a large impact on me when I was a child because, like I've said before, I have a brother that's 10 years older than me, and I specifically used to steal his License to Ill cassette and listen to it. And it was one of those things like Beastie Boys, Run DMC, there's a couple of them that really stick out in my mind, and they were very formative to me. So the Beastie Boys were popular right up through when I was growing up. So I was very much one of the Gen X on the cusp of millennial during that time period. And so I just love this band, and I don't know anything about their biography or how they formed or anything like that, which is actually strange for me because I usually do know a lot of the biography behind some of my favorite singers and my favorite bands and stuff like that, especially from when I was a kid. So really looking forward to reading this one and learning a bit more about the band. And of course, I'm sure it's going to set me off into a whole Beastie Boys phase that I'm just going to be listening to them constantly. So excited for that. And then the other one that I downloaded was The Storyteller, Tales of Life and Music by Dave Grohl. And Dave Grohl, of course, of the Foo Fighters and earlier from Nirvana. So Dave Grohl is a fantastic person from what I hear, and he is very talented as well. So I want to hear a little bit more about him and about his life and about his music, but also his time with Nirvana and his relationship with Kurt and that whole time, because Nirvana will forever be my favorite band of all time. So really excited to have both of these. So the Beastie Boys book and then Dave Grohl's new book, which I've heard good things about. So pretty excited to have all of these nonfiction books to add to my Audible library. And then moving into fiction, So one thing that I wanted to do in 2022 was read a little bit more outside of the horror genre, and I always say that and then I just end up sticking with horror for the whole year, but I do want to read a little bit more fantasy this year, and that includes some middle grade fantasy. Everyone knows how much I love middle grade books, and they're just so creative and imaginative and everything. So I downloaded Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. So this centers around 10-year-old Morrigan, and she was born on Eventide, the unluckiest day for any child to be born. She's blamed for all of the local misfortunes, from hailstorms to heart attacks, and the curse means that Morrigan is doomed to die on her 11th birthday. So before that happens, a strange and remarkable man named Jupiter North appears, and he whisks her off to this fantastical land. So it says, it's then that Morrigan discovers Jupiter has chosen her to contend for a place in the city's most prestigious organization, the Wondrous Society. In order to join, she must compete in 4 difficult and dangerous trials against hundreds of other children, each with an extraordinary talent that sets them apart. An extraordinary talent that Morrigan insists that she doesn't have. To stay in the safety of Nevermoor for good, Morrigan will need to find a way to pass the tests, or she'll have to leave the city to confront her deadly fate. So that very much sounds like a Harry Potter or tamed down Hunger Games kind of story, and it sounds fantastic to me. So really excited to have that, and this is book 1 in the Nevermoor series, so if I like this one I'll download the rest. And also I believe this is a show or a movie as well, so I wanted to read the books first and then watch the movie / show on Disney Plus. So I did see it on Disney. I don't know anything about the show, but for the books I've heard nothing but good things. So excited for some middle grade fantasy with that one. And next is a classic. So I finally bought a copy of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I'm a huge fan of Jane Eyre, and from what I hear this is very much sort of the same sort of thing. Very, very spooky and gothic and atmospheric. So it says, working as a lady's companion, the orphaned heroine of Rebecca learns her place. Life begins to look very bleak until, on a trip to the south of France, she meets Maxim de Winter, a handsome widower whose sudden proposal of marriage takes her by surprise. Whisked from glamorous Monte Carlo to his brooding estate Manderley on the Cornish coast, the new Mrs. de Winter finds Max a changed man, and the memory of his dead wife Rebecca is forever kept alive by the forbidding Mrs. Danvers. So this very, very much has those Jane Eyre kind of vibes, and even Vanity Fair sort of thing. So it sounds super spooky. I hear nothing but good things. I feel like everyone has read that book except for me, and I'm really hoping that the audiobook is going to relay some of that gothic atmosphere, and it's going to be super spooky. So excited for that one, and excited to finally be reading it. So getting back into some fantasy again, next up is The Fairy Tale Detectives, and this is book 1 in the Sisters Grimm series by Michael Buckley and Peter Ferguson. So, I mean, it obviously revolves around the legends and the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm. So this one is a little bit of a different take. And it says that these 2 sisters, Sabrina and Daphne, are sent to live with their grandmother. So there they start to learn about the Brothers Grimm and the fairy tales, and they learn that the tales are actually a history book and not just fairy tales. And then it says, when a terrorizing giant goes on a rampage through the town, it's up to the Sisters Grimm to stop him and solve the mystery of who set the giant loose in the first place. Was it Mayor Charming, formerly Prince Charming, who desperately wants his kingdom back? The 3 not-so-little pigs, the shifty town cops, or many other fairy tale characters who seem to have it out for the Grimms? So again, sounds like a fantastic adventure. I haven't heard anything about these authors or anything about this series, but it sounded good to me, so I went ahead and downloaded that one. So getting into some witchy books now. So the first one is Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. And I've seen this book all over the place. I haven't read it, obviously. Heard good things about it, and from the synopsis, it just seems to be screaming feminism. So I'll just read you what it says on Goodreads. It says, in 1893, there's no such thing as witches. There used to be, in the wild, dark days before the burnings began. But now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must do it at the ballot box. But when the Eastwood sisters joined the suffragettes of New Salem, they began to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. Stalked by shadows and sickness, hunted by forces who will not suffer a witch to vote, and perhaps not a witch to live, the sisters will need to delve into the oldest magics, draw new alliances, and heal the bond between them if they want to survive. So, sounds good to me. I hope this is going to be true to history and with the suffragettes and the women's vote and the whole thing. So that sounds fantastic. I don't know why I didn't download or pick up a copy of this book before. I'm not really too sure, but it sounds pretty good, so we're gonna give it a go. And then the next witchy book is The Witch of Willow Hall by Hester Fox. So this one sounds like it's right up my alley. So we have witches and spooky houses and the whole thing. So this takes place in 1821, and it says, something has awakened in Willow Hall. 18-year-old Lydia Montrose can feel it, but she has no idea what it is. Rocked by rumor and scandal, Lydia, her parents, and her sisters, Catherine and Emmeline, fled their sparkling life in Boston for the sleepy country estate. But bone-chilling noises at night have Lydia convinced that their idyllic new home wasn't exactly vacant when they arrived. The Salem witch trials cast a long shadow over the Montrose family, as the cloying heat of summer in Massachusetts mingles with something sinister in the air. The sprawling history of Willow Hall is no stranger to secrets, and its dark past soon calls out to Lydia, igniting ancient magic she never knew she possessed. But with menacing forces unwilling to rest, threatening to tear her and her family apart, Lydia must learn to harness her newly discovered power or risk losing everyone she holds dear. So again, spooky house, witches, Salem witch trials, scandal, the whole thing. Sounds fantastic, so we'll give that one a go as well. And then the last one that I downloaded is a thriller. So I haven't read anything by Karen McManus yet, but I've heard about her books before. So last year I read 2 thrillers that this one gave me the same sort of vibes, and I'm really looking forward to it because I'm hoping that this one is going to be just as good as those. So this one is Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen McManus, and it says, Echo Ridge is a small town America. Ellery has never been there, but she's heard all about it. Her aunt went missing there at age 17, and only 5 years ago, a homecoming queen put the town on the map when she was killed. Now Ellery has to move there to live with a grandmother she barely knows. The town is picture perfect, but it's hiding secrets. And before school even begins for Ellery, someone has declared open season on homecoming, promising to make it as dangerous as it was 5 years ago. Then, almost as if to prove it, another girl goes missing. Ellery knows all about secrets. Her mother has them, her grandmother does too, and the longer she's in Echo Ridge, the clearer it becomes that everyone there is hiding something. So that's all I needed to know about that. Like I said, I read a couple of books last year that were very reminiscent of this, and they were super page turners. So hoping this one is going to be a really bang up thriller also. So that's all I have for you guys. I just wanted to let you know the new audiobooks that I downloaded, and I'm going to be probably blowing through these pretty quickly. So we'll give all of these a go, and I'll let you guys know in my monthly wrap-ups what I think about them. But that's everything I have for you guys for this video. If you liked it, please make sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a question or a comment down below because you know I love chatting with you guys. But until next time, stay spooky everybody. Bye.